Today on Weight Loss Wednesdays, we're talking to Kaya Duff. Kaya Duff is a superstar.
Registered kinesiologist here.
That's what I call a superstar.
So we're going to talk about exercise and weight loss
Yes.
on this Wednesday.
And it applies for every day of the week.
Yeah.
But today, Kaya is going to mop the floor with us with her training expertise, her motivation, what the science says.
Yep.
And I'm going to let her do all the talking.
A little bit about it. Should I let you begin or do you want me to start?
Oh, technically, I started, so the ball's in your court. You
Okay.
hit us. What kind of exercise is going to give us the results that we're looking for?
That's a tough place to start. It will really depend on the person. So one thing that I would say I really enjoyed when I started working here was having access to tests and devices like the InBody machine. So understanding someone's body composition first and foremost before you get started, and then also using that along the way to sort of see how they're progressing, maybe not progressing, and what's working for them or what isn't. If you have a client or a patient that already has a significant amount of muscle mass and they're looking to lose some weight, it might be just changing up their resistance training and, the intensity of it a little bit differently. So it might be moving away from the higher loads and into maybe more repetitions at a lighter resistance, or maybe they're decreasing their rest and things like that to keep their heart rate up, and maybe looking at the cardiovascular aspects of things and as opposed to the resistance training. And someone that maybe has lost a bit of weight and is now looking to maintain that or get over a plateau, and they've been doing more so cardiovascular or aerobic work, you might look at changing up or increasing their resistance training and things like that, shifting the body composition to get more working tissues.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you may have a client that's already doing maybe strength training, but if they hit a wall, maybe they got to focus more on the cardio, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Like that shock the body, keep it guessing sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The body responds to the stress that you put it under, and the more that you do that, it becomes better able to adapt that way, and it gets a little bit easier over time, and that's why you have to sort of continue to progress it.
Okay.
Change things up.
So a lot of my patients, they'll be like, I'll ask them about exercise, and they're like, well, I walk every day.
Yeah.
I hate when they say that.
That's a tricky place for us, I think, as well. In the world of kinesiology, a lot of times I hear like, oh, well, I think back to the teachers, well, I'm on lunch duty, or I'm outside on recess, several times a week and things like that, or the folks that are already going for their walks and stuff. And the idea is that when you want to lose weight, or shift your body composition that way, you need to do more. So a lot of times we are already physically active or already doing our regular physical activity, but we have to increase that exercise a little bit more so that we get the results that we want. Like I said before, your body learns to adapt to the stress that you put it under. And if it's learned to sort of maintain where it's at with the stresses that you have it under at that point in time, then we have to get a little bit more. Maybe it's setting aside some time, maybe at the start of your regular walk, to say, hey, I've got to get through this first kilometer 2 minutes faster, something like that. Yeah. Like just pick up the pace a little bit at the beginning there, get your heart rate pumping so it's, pumped up for the rest of your walk.
Yeah, I think people get very comfortable with like, well, I go for this distance, and they're proud of the distance, but not necessarily working towards shortening the time that they're accomplishing that distance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you mentioned the InBody. I love the InBody because it's a great way to look at where your metabolism is and its relationship with your muscle mass and your body fat. Yeah. And a lot of people get fixated on the weight.
Yes.
Their just total number, like the mass.
Yeah.
Maybe you can speak to some signs that you're progressing in your weight loss, where initially you may not be seeing the overall number of your weight going down, but what are some things that we can look at that suggest that you're being successful regardless?
Even without devices or any of that sort of information, you can just see in yourself when you put your clothes on in the morning, how are they fitting? How do they fall? If they fit a little bit differently, that might be an indication that you've had a bit of a shift in your body composition. And then I think that's, a pretty good place to start. If you're finding that, oh, I used to be really out of breath by the time I would get to the top of these stairs at the subway station or something on your way into work, and you're not anymore, like that's a really good indication that you have started to have at least some type of cardiovascular adaptation to the stress that you're under, right? Like you're getting up there and your heart's not, upset with you that morning. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So there would be, there's that aspect of it, and that's not necessarily weight loss, but again, just the health benefits of doing your regular exercise and physical activity. You might find that in terms of weight loss, you might be more hungry. If you're shifting towards more active tissue in the body, and by that I mean if you're increasing your muscle mass, again, you're using up, and we mentioned basal metabolic rate or BMR, and that's just saying like this is the base number of kilocalories your body needs, the amount of energy your body needs in a given day to get through just keeping you alive, breathing, heart pumping, those things. If you are increasing that because you have more active tissue, muscle needs energy to work.
Sure.
If you're increasing that and it's heavier to move around, everything takes more energy, you might be a little more hungry. And that's a pretty good indication that you've shifted your body composition, maybe not lost weight, but at least shifted your body composition to a more active place, and that will have health benefits as well.
Wonderful.
Sleep.
Yes.
This is a tough one. Some people I find sleep more when they're exercising more. They're a little bit more tired. Some people have a hard time getting to sleep when they've increased their exercise, and I think a lot of that sometimes depends on time of day. A lot of us, the time of day that's available is after work in the evening and things like that. And once you start to bring your heart rate up in the evening, can be confusing for the body to then quickly turn around and say, you know what, never mind, let's go to bed.
Yeah.
So that can be a bit of a
maybe it's a transition time. It takes a few weeks for your body to adjust to that.
Yeah, it's actually usually, I think, I don't know how much of that's a transition. If you really want to go to bed, like you should give yourself at least 90 minutes, I think.
Downtime?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Before I start asking other questions, do you have I know you have like a lot of talking points. I don't want to cut into your time.
No.
I can just ask away?
Go ahead.
Well, I think that a lot of people, they get nervous when they find that they're getting hungrier with their training. And you did clarify. It's like, well, if you're more metabolically active and you're building muscle, then you need to feel that muscle.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I find a lot of people who are struggling with weight loss, they are under eating.
Yeah.
Whether it's just like total calories are insufficient or they're skipping meals and then they're backloading calories at the end of the day.
Yes.
What do you find is a good kind of breakdown in terms of eating habits that, it's considering that you need energy to work out, but you also are trying to lose weight?
Yeah. Having access to something like the InBody, which will tell you your basal metabolic rate, is helpful for that. But I think also just the understanding that most adults need to be eating more than, just 1,000 calories a day, especially if I find a lot of people eating, I start training with people, and when I actually get them to look at what they're eating in a day, and it's in that 800 to 1,100 calories a day, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's too low to ask your body to do more work. And so that puts your body in that state of, I can't let go of any of the body fat that I have here because it's all I've got. You're not giving me enough.
It's a protective mechanism.
To let go of any more.
Sure.
So really making sure that, plan to eat a sufficient number of calories for at least your basal metabolic rate. And then, if you're adding exercise on top of that and your goal is to lose weight, maybe just a little bit more, couple hundred more, not a significant amount, so much that you're not going to get into that deficit, because you do eventually want to be able to work into a deficit here, like do enough exercise that you can bring, that you're expending more than you're taking in.
Yeah. It's almost like we have to jumpstart the engine.
Absolutely. That's what it's doing. That's why you're hungry.
And the only other thing is that it just depends on what you're eating.
Yes.
So if you're hungry and you're like, I'm going to have 4 waffles, I don't know, bad idea?
Not the right.
you know better. It's okay to say.
Don't eat 4 waffles.
But maybe like a little bit more protein.
Yeah, go for those nutrient dense foods. Like you want to make sure it shouldn't just be simple sugars. Like a piece of fruit is a great snack during the day, but when you're trying to recover and let your body recover from exercise, having that protein readily available for it, as well as a bit of sugar to actually get it into your cells, good idea.
Yeah.
But more protein than apples and strawberries.
Yeah, people love their fruit salads.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I can have 4 servings of fruit, and like, how much vegetables? They're like, nah, I'm not into vegetables. Like, we're gonna flip that.
Yeah, I've got to flip that.
How do you know if you're exercising sufficiently hard?
During the exercise?
Yeah.
Super simple. Talk test. If you're walking along with someone on a bike, not really able to keep up a conversation, especially at the pace that you and I are right now, you're probably your breathing rate is increased, your heart rate is increased. That's a good indication that you're at a moderate intensity.
Yeah. So kind of like a little bit of like breathiness.
Yeah. You should hear it. You should hear your breath. Some people will do like a singing test. You shouldn't be able to sing when you're at a moderate intensity. If you're walking along and just belting out.
If you're singing along with your phone, in your headphone, you're not working hard enough.
No.
Okay, that's good.
You should not have that lung capacity.
Yeah.
Rate of perceived exertion scales is sort of what we're talking about there.
Yeah.
So if you go online, you'll see a ton of them. The Borg scale. 4 to 6 is a moderate intensity. 7 to 8 is a vigorous. 7 to 8 is where you're starting to get into that area of, I'm a little bit uncomfortable here. I'm not breathing like I normally am. I don't want to have this conversation anymore. You might start to sweat. That's a pretty good indication that you're...
I mean, that's probably like what we should be aiming for.
Yes. Yeah. I often tell my clients that. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sweating. I'm like, this is how I measure my success.
Yeah.
This is what I want to see.
If you're training and you're not sweating, maybe there's something metabolically or just not effort-wise is not there.
Yeah, exactly. If there's something that's, if there's something metabolically that's made that change, sure. But I do like to see some sweat.
I'd imagine.
I want to do some cleaning at the end of your session.
Spray everything down. Okay. So what about recovery? Because like sometimes people are like, I'm sore. I feel like I'm broken after a workout. Did they work too hard, or is it just like their body's trying to get used to it? And how do you like manage it?
Yeah, I'd say there's a few things there. So in session, a lot of people will say like, oh, do you hear that cracking, or this is popping, and whatever else. I'm like, that's great. As long as it's not accompanied by like a really sharp pain or pain at the moment, I'm okay with that. Like a lot of times that's just us getting a little bit more movement through your joints that haven't been through that range of motion in a while. That's good. Or loading the muscles through the full range of motion. Maybe you don't use that part of the muscle very often. You don't get into the full range. When you're squatting down to pick something up, you compensate in some way. That soreness that sort of onsets about 24 to 48 hours after resistance training or muscle strengthening exercise, that's delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, and that's okay. It can be a little bit debilitating, but it shouldn't be painful to the point where you're like, I am, 7, 8, out of 10 in pain here. Like,
you got to recover.
Yeah, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a little bit of muscle tension in the areas that you actually worked on.
Yes.
That's what we would want to see there. It's just a little bit of soreness, and that's okay.
Is there any types of exercises that if someone's going to adopt at home there that will maybe yield a little bit more effectiveness in terms of like whether it's weight loss or toning? I mean, a lot of it's been trendy, like people are doing like squats and they're maybe doing it for the aesthetic, but is it something that maybe, I've always heard that like deep squats are great for like maybe boosting growth hormone and stimulating metabolism. Is there anything that you would recommend?
Just moving. Honestly, moving.
Let's start there.
Like if you're sitting on the couch and you haven't been doing anything in a little while, like throw your arms up over your head or bring them up to the side, do some arm circles, march from a seated position, even just to start. Sit there, do some calf raises, do some toe lifts, things like that. Move your body. Ask it to give you just a little bit more than what you've been taking from it in the past, and it will give you more in the long run.
Do you think it's fair to say that if someone's looking to lose weight, that if they're not adopting some type of physical activity, they're probably limiting their potential weight loss?
Yeah, you're missing a huge part.
Yeah, like 60%.
Now, I don't want to knock the diet and stuff. That's your jam.
It's like they feed off each other.
They do, yeah. They have to work together, I think, really well. And truthfully, I think there really needs to be both.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not moving, I mean, what's the point?
Well, I mean, I think it's good to consider that if you are trying to lose weight, what you're trying to do is not necessarily just melt away, but it's maybe to build up some muscle to like support your physical structure, to actually help with metabolic function. Like, we have musculature for a reason, so we need to have that toned at some minimum. We're not looking to be bodybuilders.
In my mind, it's quality of life. Yeah. Like, we don't want to live with disease. We know that the risk of not doing the bare minimum physical activity or exercise is that you will probably experience something like cardiovascular disease, metabolic diseases, and those are not easy syndromes, conditions, and things like that to live with in the long term.
Sure.
And once they start to progress, it's very difficult to get out of that pathway. So starting with, like I said, basic movements, marching from your seated position, anything to just bring your heart rate up just a touch, feel a little warmth, it goes a long way.
What's something that someone can do like today or the next few days? Like, I mean, some of your services, whether it's virtual classes.
The virtual class, I think, is a great idea. I am hoping to introduce the re-intro or the reboot to movement class, which will be just body weight movements and things like that. A little bit of dynamic stretching.
For like beginners or people that are trying to get back into it.
Exactly.
And being virtual, it's like, I guess it's a finite number of people and convenient time, and it's pretty cheap.
It is, yeah. And we're looking for those compensatory behaviors and things like that, or movements in the session. And so I think those are great things. The Canadian Society for Exercise Physiology has their guidelines of, physical activity and exercise that is recommended just for health benefit, really. So, and that's, decreasing the risk of, again, those cardiovascular diseases, metabolic diseases, and such. And so what they say is for adults aged 18 to 64, they're looking for 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic activity. Okay. So that's walking, swimming, yoga. And again, moderate intensity is, if you're looking at your heart rate, like if you have a smartwatch device or anything like that, it's going to be looking at your max heart rate, taking 50 to 70% of that, that's your moderate intensity. And vigorous intensity will be 70 to 85%. And so working in those ranges is where you are, again, stressing your physiological, like your systems, enough so that you reap the health benefits. That's their goal. Some people will find that just with those 150 minutes or working up to them, because that's what I typically recommend to folks. We'll do like 2 weeks of, okay, now we're working towards 90 minutes a week. And then we do 2 weeks of, 120 or something like that. So working up that way. Once they start working up, they're already starting to lose weight for some people. Sure. Others maybe not, but that would be the minimum, I think, for adults. And then with that, they also suggest the 2 days a week of muscle strengthening activity. So looking at larger muscle groups. So that's where we come in with squats. That's where we come in with push-ups, glute bridges, things like that support you through most of your everyday movements and to function for most able-bodied people, that is.
Amazing.
Yeah, those are pretty good ones.
I feel like we can talk all day about this.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
No. Did you have something you wanted to finish off with? You don't have to. You said a mouthful already.
No, I think.
Exercise. Yes.
Move a little when you can.
You're being too kind.
I am.
They should move more.
If you're not moving, come
You're
find
missing
me.
out. Yes. All right, Kaya.
Let's get moving.
Thank you so much. So you have virtual classes. You have in-person training here as well. Body composition, doing fitness programs for people. Yep. And soon we'll be releasing the Try Health app with personal training, diet, all that other good stuff. So that's a little teaser, but amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Love talking about this.
I know she does. She's the best. All right, guys. Thanks for joining, okay?
See you.
See you.